Ashita. I think you have already laid down the foundation very well. And it's really a pleasure to see how she has, really grown over the years with so many insights coming before we have set foot on the stage. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this panel discussion, which is around hyper-connected world, the security and the risks associated. Now, let me, try and build some kind of context before we begin this discussion. So we would all agree that we live in a very super hyper-connected world where devices are so connected, mobiles, computers, laptops, infrastructure, everything is so connected. In fact, a very interesting incident comes to my mind, which I observed. So I had gone for a visit, gone to attend a conference in Dubai. And I went to one of the departmental stores. And what I noticed was that people just pick up stuff, put it in a basket, go and keep the basket at the checkout, and walk out. Everything, all billing is done without any touch point. So that is the kind of interconnectedness of the world that we currently reside in. And this interconnectedness has led to an explosion of data as we speak. Data is getting produced in the cloud, on the edge, and there is a lot of data getting produced artificially. With the coming of AI, the biggest thing which has increased or enhanced, or the quantum of which has increased, is content. So much of new data is getting created. In fact, according to an estimate, the world currently sits on around 180 zettabytes of data, which is mind-boggling. In fact, let me pull the audience here. Can you guess what a zettabyte is in terms of gigabytes? Try, the world is the... Can I have a few microphones in the audiences? So we are going to have a very eventful discussion. Praveen is all charged up now, I'm sure, after this incident. So any ideas, any wild guesses? How much is a zettabyte in terms of GBs? That's the right answer. Although you did take a while to Google it, but so that is the quantum and scale of data that is getting produced. And this has its own concomitant sense of set of challenges that it has brought about. Such a huge quantum of data is getting governed increasingly. Across the world, first there was the GDPR in Europe. Today we have the DPDP laws, we have security laws, so many laws around it. So it's a very treacherous terrain. A lot of people call data by all kinds of names, like some people call it oil, some people call it gold, depending on what they like. But the idea is that it's considered as a very invaluable commodity, as a very invaluable asset. But this asset can be tricky. It can have its own set of liabilities, and which is what we are seeing. In fact, according to a report, 75% of this data which is generated in an enterprise is going to be processed outside a traditional data center, which means at the edge, in the cloud, or wherever. So with these words, I think I have laid down a substantial amount of context. And thank you, Praveen, for joining us. You have infused fresh energy into the whole discussion. So yes, starting with Prakash. Prakash, as I spoke, that there is this unprecedented explosion in data, and which is happening due to two basic reasons. The first reason is that the devices have increased. Second, the devices to sense data have also increased. So, I mean, I remember you go to Mumbai buildings, you would still find many buildings which have a manual door. I mean, you pull the grill and then it opens. There are very few, only in very recent buildings do you find that sensor-enabled, elevator. So it's a very recent phenomenon that sensors have become much more affordable, much more cheaper, in far greater number. That is also resulting in this huge data churn. I have spoken enough. Being the moderator, I shouldn't have spoken that much. Now it's your turn, Prakash.
Yeah, sure. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So myself, Prakash. So whatever I'm speaking is my own views, not my company's view.
Nobody's going to arrest you, don't worry.
No. So, I will also give one context. I resides in Delhi, and my bank account is still in my, home town, because there is no need to shift the accounts now. So, my passbooks of the bank used to be in my hometown only. So one day my father, he thought, बहुत दिन से update नहीं हुआ, so he will take my passbook to get it updated. He thought like his passbook, when he goes once in 6 months, it is hardly one page that gets updated because he receives the pension from the government. That's the only update that he receives, and any withdrawal through checkbook. He took my passbook. The whole passbook got exhausted because of the printing, and the branch manager said, "Sir, printing ki zarurat nahi hai, rakh do." Because we are making so many transactions, so many data is there now. Every day we make UPI payment 10 rupees to lakhs. We are doing the transactions, and that all data is getting. Earlier it was in a month hardly 30 or 20 or 30 transactions. Now it is more than 300 transactions that we do. It is all data. Now coming to the data and its challenges, data can be evolved, whatever you wish to say, but it has now become a challenge as well with the coming of the privacy law. Now we have to find out where all the data is residing. And the challenge is that, in the structured data, you have, defined, data flow diagram, you have database. So you have a lot of controls already in place. But with the unstructured data, we don't know what all data is lying and where it is lying. We are into a, mortgage lending business. It's governed by RBI. Now we do housing loan. So, the salesperson is the first, the person of contact for the, end customers. So, customer would send their data over email, WhatsApp, everything to the, a person who is trying to take a loan. He will not follow the protocol of sending over, the application only. If he is thinking that if he can get the loan one day before, he will, share the data over WhatsApp, also email as well. Now, those data, the PII data of the customer is also lying on the endpoints of the, sales employee. Same thing gets uploaded in the, portal application. And then somebody is taking, dashboard MIS as well. Again, the data is there as well. So, all these data are lying everywhere, be it in endpoints, be it on, servers. Now the challenge is that, you have to now know where the data is lying, because tomorrow if the customer gives the consent and he tries to withdraw the consent, now from where will you remove the data? First of all, you should know where the data is lying. There are technologies now like DSPM and all, which helps you to, find out the data and also gives you an insight that this data has not been accessed from the last 3 months, 6 months, or who all have access to those data. But the data which is lying in your endpoints, that becomes a challenge again, because DSPM does not support that. We have to have endpoint controls again. So, you have to have mix of technology, mix of awareness, that you have to control the data flow as well. With the DPDP, there is a challenge now, because we cannot keep the data of the consumer unless the consent is given, or you have to take the consent of the customer before onboarding itself. And it should be explicit. Otherwise, it used to be, legal used to draft the consent. Everything is written in a small font, and then just one checkbox, which is by default tick box for many other applications as well. So that customer gives by default consent. Now you have to take explicit consent. So in this hyper-connected world where, you have, data in terabytes, earlier we used to have phone with, MBs. Now GBs is also not working. So, how much data we keep ourselves think about the organization, and the organization which is holding, the data for the customers of, for more than 20 years. And in housing zone, we have to keep the data of the, of the customer even after the relationship has ended because of these laws that we have for data retention. So it is very challenging for us as well, because the first thing is identification of the data where it is lying is the most challenge. If you find the problem, then you can have the solution. The bigger problem is finding the problem where the data is lying.
Excellent points coming from you, Prakash. You spoke about many aspects actually. First, the distinction between structured and unstructured data, and how these huge swathes of unstructured data, they continue to pose a grave challenge for enterprises which are dealing with it. And the primary challenge that enterprises face today, as Prakash said, is to actually identify where all the data resides. I think that is a primary challenge. And you also spoke about how regulatory laws around data usage, particularly in terms of privacy, consent management, all of that, has become really stringent, with the result that we had the DPDP rules published just, I think, 10 or 14 days, 2 weeks back. So in all this, in this very tightening atmosphere, I would really want to bring Akhil into the discussions. But before we do that, let me just go back to the audience, and I would like to remind you that we will keep the discussions very free-flowing with a lot of participation from you. So I am expecting that you would have a few questions. After we go to a couple of speakers, please keep your questions ready. That will be your chance under the limelight. Yes. Akhil, your thoughts on this?
Sure. So firstly, a very good afternoon to everyone. I think I couldn't agree more with my co-panelist. Today, if you look at the data, right, majority of data will be in unstructured format. And when you have this in unstructured format, there is a possibility of data not being in a format which you intend to use it for. So this also brings in the challenge with, around the data accuracy, right? So any data which is not accurate will also not give you correct insights, right? So I think that's a very big challenge when we are talking about all these huge number of data points to deal with. So when you have got these many data points, right, just connecting it to the security paradigm, cybersecurity paradigm that I deal with normally. So you would have a lot of alert fatigue also, right? When you have alert fatigue, then it is basically the effort gone in processing that data, figuring out what is noise, what is usable, right? So ultimately, the concept of signal to noise ratio is very important, right? You can have all the data points with you, but then if it is not usable to you, if you don't know what to do about it, I think that data is then not useful, right? So again, the regulatory paradigm, right? I think it's in today's scenario, it's very difficult to navigate around, I would say, the maze of regulatory, obligations, be it Data Privacy Act, be it the cybersecurity, data localization, all these requirements. So I think regulatory paradigm is again a thing to deal with. Also, when you talk about data processing, now it becomes very important. How do you secure this processing whole function, okay, of processing data in a way that the privacy laws are adhered to, the encryption is also maintained. So then people talk about having operations on encrypted data, but again, that is something that is yet to mature. So these are all the challenges I think that we see when it comes to BFSI sector specifically. So data privacy is also one of the challenges. And again, now hyperconnectivity is not an option, right? Uh, I mean, everyone interacts through some platform. I mean, the government agencies, individuals, organizations, businesses, everybody will have some platform either on the cloud or some device, something, right? So connectivity is a given thing. Now, when you have this connectivity, obviously, there will be also vulnerabilities around it, right? So that is how the vulnerabilities will also get amplified. So I think it's a situation to be wary about, okay, and to find the right solution for it.
Very interesting views coming from you, Akhil. So, you know, touching another aspect of the entire cybersecurity scenario around a hyper-connected world, I'm sure you guys must be aware that there are tons and tons of reports which come out regularly of some data breach, some security incident, some cybersecurity incident which has happened, with so many of them happening across the globe, ransomware, phishing, whatever. So, how do you see this trajectory in terms of, you know, the number of security incidents, data breaches, which have risen exponentially over the past several years? How do you see the entire, you know, security landscape in that context?
Sure. So I think the cybersecurity threat landscape has been ever evolving. I mean, this has been the situation since quite some time, right? So nothing has changed over there. But then what adds up is basically the new technologies that have come in. AI is a new thing that, you know, we all are on right now. So AI, when I say AI, it is not just, you know, being cautious about how do you adopt AI in your organization, but then the attackers also have hands on these AI tools now, right? So now the attacks are more sophisticated. Ransomwares, now what we have seen, ransomwares typically used to have this encryption step, right? Now attackers have been smart enough to also exclude that encryption step. What this means, when I have to detect an ransomware alert, okay, previously I would look for an encryption step, now that's gone. So now the attacks have become more low and slow. That's one more thing. Also, because the step of encryption is gone, these attacks are more faster. And also the cost of attack has gone down. So according to me, I mean, whatever I have understood throughout my career, cybersecurity is always a game of, you know, reducing the cost of attack, right? So the more you increase the cost of attack for an attacker, the more you would be able to, you know, keep them out of the bay. So that's there. Again, talking about you know, hyper connectivity, coming back to the core topic of hyper connectivity, I think in 2021 we had seen an attack in US wherein the whole oil supply on the East Coast had gone down, right? Now that was because of one compromised password being exploited. So that's how, you know, an attack on one organization can transpire into a bigger impact, right? So the lateral movement of attacks is also a possibility now because all of us are connected, right? So it's not one organization which is impacted when you know, it experiences a cyber attack. It's all the whole ecosystem that you're dealing with. So I think it's the impact is larger than what we would imagine when it comes to these kind of cyber attacks. So that's one more thing I think we should be, you know.
Great points coming from you, Akhil. You have spoken about a lot of things that is already in currency these days, AI-driven attacks, ransomware attacks. Do you know what is a ransomware attack? Anyone in this room? You can again take a wild guess. I see a gentleman there. Can we have the mic there?
Yes, sir. Where our data is stolen by the hackers and they encrypt it, and to decrypt and provide again, they want some money or something in exchange.
Absolutely brilliant. I wish we could have given away something, but your response is dead on. Also, as I promised, I will be coming back to the audience. I hope you are keeping your questions ready. Praveen, your thoughts on this very, very volatile and fast, rapidly evolving, threat landscape, where we see security incidents, data breaches increasing in an exponential manner.
Interesting. So first, let's understand why it is increasing, right? But before that, what is threat landscape? So all CISOs should understand, at least measure, document what are the threat surface you should manage, right? So once you identify your threat surface is nothing but, if you are internet, then the entire globe is your threat surface. Then you have to manage the internet entry point. If you are only within India, then entire India is your threat surface, right? If you are only in particular sector, so how you are open, how much you are open, how you are managing, how you measure. So you identify your threat surface first and see that what are the threats, actual threats you have on those threat surface, right? There are tips to know, right? And as a CISO, you have to be always aware that which kind of threats you are facing off and how you can identify those threats and how proactively you can mitigate those threats coming to your threat surface, right? So as a mature and bigger organization, right, there are services, right, so you can avail of. The services from government agencies like CERT-In, you can get a feed of CERT-In threat intelligence. If you are in VFSI, you can get a feed from IDRBT and IB card, what we call as. If you are also having that some threat surface management, you can monitor and get an alert from that. You can also source some private threat intelligence platform. There you can get the feed and put it in your SOC operation to understand what kind of threats coming from where, what kind of IP, which country are threat. You also have to continuously assess the geopolitical threat, right? So especially during the Sindoor, so all the critical infrastructure companies have faced a huge threats from cross-border. So geopolitical threat is another threat, real threat for everyone. If you are into the very competitive industry, right, so you have to also assess your competitor as a threat, right? And it is real, it is happening not in India much prevalent, but it is happening across globe. So understand your threat first, understand your threat landscape, manage your threat surfaces, and then take the proactive actions, right? So a few tips I can give that if you identify your threat and if you analyze, let's suppose last 3 months of threat, then you can create a kind of heat map so that you can take a risk-based proactive action. I'm not sure how technical I'm going into, but I'll try to make it a bit simple. So once you have created the heat map, or heat map is nothing but a risk heat map, then you can start taking action. Let's suppose if you're getting hit from Pakistan or China or Iran or any Sudan or any so-called not good countries, right? You should block those IPs straight away. If you're not doing business outside India where you're opening all the incoming traffic from across other globe, other countries, please simply block that, right? If you have some kind of behavioral analysis, right? If your services are down at the night, then please ensure that all your port services are closed at the night so that you can manage you can minimize your threat surface during the night, right? If you are having heavy business coming from one particular region, then you should be monitoring and putting some kind of threshold or some kind of parameters, right? So that you can immediately get the alert that okay, this is unusual behavior. So you have to put some AI-based behavioral analysis tool in your SOC. SOC is nothing but Security Operations Center, which is the nerve center for any CISO. So proactiveness is critical for us. Once you have or you are able to identify threat proactively, then you have to reinitiate the threat response mechanism. And depend on, again, maturity, right? So what kind of playbook you have. Playbook is nothing but in any kind of potential event or incident, how quickly you can act upon to neutralize those threats. It's just simply like any army war, India-Pakistan war or India any other two countries wars. So understanding the move from your threat, taking proactive action. Proactive action is like that that you start the threat hunting process. You also block those IPs. You also counter those threat by number of initiatives. So you please immediately take the threat response mechanism, initiate that act, and see then find the root cause. And I'll also brainstorm within your security team that, okay, how if next time if same threat comes to us, then how we can neutralize, right, immediately, even we should not allow to even come those threat to attack on us. So those are the very proactive, very, very continuous monitoring. Having the intelligence tool is critical for to be successful, to be proactive. So intelligence tools means like AI-based tool. So behavioral analysis, playbook using the SOAR, security orchestration and automation response mechanism. So those are the very high sophisticated tools what you have. And last but not the least, right, that your security team has to be very talented, very kind of skill-oriented, understand the threat, know the coding, write some threat hunting code as well, can initiate, use the SIEM effectively, can also integrate with the different multiple security tools what you have, build that intelligence, create those playbook, automated playbook response mechanism. And in this way, you can not only proactively identify your threat, but also you can take appropriate, timely measures to neutralize those threats if at all they become serious threat to you. Once, after taking all the action, incident happens, right? So if incident happens, then what are the response mechanism you have? How you can quickly recover, right? What kind of tabletop exercise or preparedness you have? So all those to be prepared, you have to have the CCMP or Cyber Crisis Management Plan and all those. So many things you have to do at step by step. So prepare for the unfortunate event called incident, and see that how quickly you respond those incidents to minimize the impact. So these are the quick thought, Mukbil. Happy to take any other question you have.
I think it was a very detailed response where you spoke about the various elements that should form the playbook if you have to thwart or you have to contain cybersecurity incident in this extremely hyper-connected world. I will go to you again, but before that, let me give the audience a chance. In case there are any questions in the house, please feel free, please raise your hands and we will give you a chance to ask your question. Any questions? Okay, I think they are still framing their questions. So now sticking to you, to your thought, you have laid down very elaborately, the elements of a playbook. Now I want to really take it to another level. And the level is that hypothetically, say there is a ransomware attack that you are facing. What would be some of the very important pertinent things or actions that you would take?
So since this is in media, last year there was ransomware attack is one of the fintech partner, right? So I was actively involved to contain that attack. I'll not take name, but you can Google it. So the immediate and it's a difficult, right? So general, making it very general, but thumb rule is that please isolate yourself, right? So this is the first and quick response, right? So please isolate from internet, definitely for sure for that particular application. I'm not suggesting that entire company should be isolated, but see that what can be isolated to contain that. So that should be the first response, right? And then immediately go and change the password of at least your database where you kept all the critical database. So immediately change the password for all, so that attacker would be difficult to further destruct your database. And then third is that buy some time. It's called golden hour rule. Buy some time, negotiate with the ransomware if you are unable to decrypt those data, and they really encrypted all the database, critical database, using their own keys. Then you have not much option but to negotiate with them, right? Again, it all depends on your policy, right? If you have the strict policy that not to pay the ransom, so better, you hire a good forensic investigator, you hire a good retainer services, there are good companies available. Seek the expert help immediately during the golden hour. Don't delay that. And that's why the tips what I can give you, please keep SLA-based retainer services available, all right? So every company should be having that 1 hour or 2 hours kind of SLA. Whenever we get an incident, we understand there is an incident, I can call you and you should be active within an hour or so, because they are really expert and in this field. How to negotiate with the ransomware people, how to quickly isolate, how to quickly try to decrypt, how quickly so they have the number of SOP and they will suggest you. So my quick tips would be to isolate first, change the password, preserve all the logs, and then start analyzing which are the origination system from there this ransomware has come, right? See that from there, this is very simple to analyze, right? See that how they can laterally move to one system to another system, and to, as of now, up to which system that they have reached, and then see that after that system where this ransomware people can go, and see that how you can isolate so that at least content and the impact would be the kind of limited. And please go for the expert. If you don't have expert in your security team, this is what my quick tips would be.
Thank you for your quick tip, although we were looking for a more detailed response, Praveen. But having said that, this is a very interesting, it's actually a very, very difficult situation for any company to find themselves in. So when a ransomware attack happens, so there is somebody who has your data, he has encrypted it, he is threatening to publish it, to release it. Now if you don't pay, he will release it. Then you come within the ambit of the recent law, DPDP, you open the entire can of worms. And if you do, again, you can't do it in rupees and dollars. All of them take, any kind of negotiation is done in cryptocurrencies. So very, very difficult situation for any enterprise to find themselves in. At this point, I would again want to, pose the same question to, Nagesh. What would you do if you were to be hypothetically confronted with such a situation where, also keeping in mind that there are deadlines. So there is a CERT deadline, there is a DPDP deadline. So the moment you come to know of that breach, there are guidelines and there are institutions that you have to inform. There is this person or a group of persons. In fact, ransomware as a service is a new thing these days, where a lot of people indulge in very organized ransomware. And in all of this, you are still trying to make up your mind. You are trying to find where it happened, what happened, how to get the boat together, how to get the react. It's a very, very complex, a very tightrope, which has to be done in a very short span. I mean, see, say something happens on Sunday night. Say on Christmas, New Year's, most of the directors are traveling, this, that, board members are not there. Anything which is of a large magnitude, for example, a big ransomware attack, will need their intervention. How do you get them at one place? I mean, how much can you do virtually? How do you respond in time? How do you also keep on doing the negotiations? As Praveen said, how do you buy time?
So actually, first thing is that in any of this type of situation, when situation.
Yeah, please.
No,
please.
I'm
I'm
really
looking for a
not-
more detailed response. I
No,
don't
Bill. Sorry, I'm requesting something different. I need to go, please. So
Sure, no
I'm
problem.
urgently required. Sorry about this.
I hope there is no ransomware. All right, thank you for joining us. Yes, Nagesh, please.
So hope everything is fine. So first thing, if there is any situation where it is very difficult to handle, so first thing we need to take care that we should not be panic, and we should face the situation will pull a strength. And again, the communication is the key. So we need to communicate with the stakeholders in a transparent manner, internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders, that yes, we are in this situation. We should not hide the situation. If something is not in our control and something has been done by someone, and that is not the right thing which has been done by, but that is not in our control. Because in this hyper-connected world, preventive and detective controls you may have, but that may not be the 100%, and that will not be able to secure in all the situations. So in this incident response scenarios, we need to be very with full of strength, with good communications with all the stakeholders, with top management, and then we should transparently communicate that what is the situation and how we need to handle. And other thing, as we have the ransomware, but actually no, we are handling to someone who is not following an ethical practice. So there is no guarantee that even if you are paying the ransom, then that data or that informations or that the commitment which are being made by them, that they will not leak the data further, or they will abide by the contractual terms which we are doing with an unethical person over a phone. You don't know each other. That person is sitting in some other locations in Central Asia or somewhere, and then you are negotiating with that person. So I think that in that situation you should be prepared for all type of scenarios where you communicate with your all stakeholders, your customers transparently, that we are in this situation and we are handling this in this type of situation, and will be able to handle the situation. So in any of the crises, in recent crisis you may have seen, which has been faced by different industries, I will not like, everybody can figure out. But where we see that communications were missing and things were not getting communicated in a manner as it is required, so that even if it is a hyper-connected world, but people were not getting to know. But when there is someone reaching to the airport, then that person was knowing, yes, this is the situation. So we should be transparent with the customers, with the stakeholders, and we should communicate the situation in a proper way. Even in DPDP Act, the provisions are made in such a way that if you are honest, if you are transparent, if you are communicating the things in a proper manner, and even if you are in a difficult situations, the agencies are there to help, and the mechanism are there that even if paying the ransom, even if not paying the ransom, even if data is lost, but your controls were foolproof. Even after those controls and those assurance audit and assurance mechanism, these things has happened. That time, those means agencies will be in help, and you will not be penalized if you need not to be penalized. If you need to be penalized, then only these agencies, Data Protection Board of India or the GDPR agencies will penalize. If you are communicating the things in a proper manner, if you are communicating to the people who has whose data principal you are communicating in a proper manner, in within 72 hours, if you are communicating to the Data Protection Board of India, and then we are taking all the guidelines, you are following all the guidelines, then in that case you will not be penalized. So it is better to deal in a legal framework, in a regulated framework, or you should do what is already defined by the government of India or the regulatory agencies to do. You should not be driven by the threat actors. If you are being driven by threat actors, then they will become more stronger. And you don't know that whatever they are committing, they will be abiding by that. So my personal view is that we should not be threatened by the threat actors. We should make a playbook in such a way that we are there to fight. We are there to fight till the last moment, and we should not be pushed by someone who should not push us.
That's a great line. Don't be threatened by a threat actor. You have literally played on the words.
Yes.
I think Akhil wants to add something.
Yeah, I'll want to add something. So I think both the panelists spoke about, incident response. I think what makes more sense right now is also taking cognizance of cyber resilience, where you also focus on how do you rapidly recover after an incident, right? Because I think cyber attack attempts are something which are inevitable. So, so one of the ideas that we have got is basically, identifying your crown jewels, your important data backups, okay, and storing it somewhere in an air-gapped environment, right? So that if the ransomware attack happens in your production environment, that doesn't travel to, the air-gapped environment because it's not connected, right? So this is one of the solutions that I've come across. I mean, there could be various other strategies. And I think what he said is very right. I mean, clear communication is very important because if you look at today's ransomwares, they don't even need to encrypt your data, right? What they are going to play on around is the data extortion aspect, right? So they'll say that, okay, I've got your data, this is the sample of that, okay, and if you don't pay me that so-and-so ransom, I'll go and leak your data. So there's a brand reputation which is at stake, right? So I think that's also very important.
Yeah, Prakash, please.
Yeah.
I think you also want to jump into the discussion. Yes.
Yes. So we all talked about the risk management steps, risk mitigation plan and all. One aspect that is missed out, I want to add is on risk transfer. We should also be, from the day one prepared for risk transfer. So we should have cyber insurance in place so that, all these aspects are also covered. When you take a cyber insurance, your PR, your, retention, what Praveen talked about, that you don't have a retainership agreement with the forensic arrangements, your communication, marketing, how do you report to the regulators? All these factors are also taken care when you have a risk transfer mechanism as well. So that is also a key aspect when we are talking about the risk management, because every risk we cannot mitigate or manage. Some risk we have to, transfer as well.
Right. So, very important points coming from you, Nagesh. And a question that comes to my mind is that, say the company refuses to pay the ransom and they release the data. So can people whose data has been released and made public, will they not challenge? So will the company be penalized on the basis of that? So, for example, if my data is made public, some sensitive data or PII or whatever, can I take that company to court despite it following due diligence or the legal route?
If all due diligence has been followed, and if regulatory framework and cyber security requirements has been followed as it should be followed by the company, so in that case, company has a protection under the law. So company is protected in that case. So even if data is exfiltrated and it is with the threat actors and that data is getting released, but when you got the information based on that, that information has been communicated to the board, to the data DPPI, and also to the data principals in a manner which is given in the DPDP Act, then company is protected in that case. So that measures are there in the law and the rule to protect the company.
Which is very good because that would incentivize companies to actually be upfront about these.
Yes, and that was very much
incidents and
required. Otherwise, what will happen that everybody will go to the insurance company and through this way, that way, they will start paying and making more stronger to the threat actors. And obviously, they will get this money to make more investment in this area, and it will be very difficult for us in this hyper-connected world to be protected. So it is very important for all of us that we should think in that way. We should not pay the ransom. We should be prepared, as Akhil has rightly said. We should have our response and recovery measures in such a strong measures that we should have a means less impact on our business, less impact on our data principles. If means many measures are available, data tokenization and anonymization, pseudonymization, those way are available. So if in that way informations are means stored at different places and then secured properly, so there is a less chances of actual data get exfiltrated, actual principal data, sorry, actual personal data or the data which is impacting the privacy, that will get impacted. Other is that the business impact. For business impact also we need to be prepared. Data is encrypted and you have to run, and as MII, it is very important to run the business and continue the business as it is required. So for that we should have a measure like air gap solution, defense in depth solutions. So in such a way that if one system is compromised, that is getting content, as Praveen has rightly said, and we are able to function. But many of the time we see that when one attack is happening, as rightly said by the previous panelist, that one fintech was attacked and that company was isolated. So yes, isolation is good, but that time we should build a trust. We should talk with that CISO, which has already in the tremendous pressure, or the CIO and CTO of that company, and we should figure out which area of the systems are impacted. And we should not penalize if someone is in the bad situation, and that time we are further penalizing that, fully isolating that company to do business, then there will be more impact and there will be more pressure on that company to pay and to do other type of way to come out of that situation. So we should be in a united way and we should share information, we should collaborate and help that CISO and CTO in that situation. And we should only isolate the items or the things which has been really impacted. And we should build a trust with that CISO. I think the role of CISO, that CISO of fintech company is very important. So that way, whenever we are coming up with that situation that some of the business partners are impacted, we are creating a direct communication with the CISO and CTOs of that company. We understand what is and what should be the our response to that scenario. Their response they are taking. But at the same time, we should also need to take our response in such a way that due to them, other customers or other business partners should not be impacted. Suppose if their malware is coming to us, but when we are getting a proper communication from them and we understand that yes, only a part of the systems which are not related to the capital market that is impacted, or one isolated laptop has been impacted, or some UAT systems has been impacted, or some cloud services has been impacted. So there is no need to fully isolate that company. That also is very important. As a community, we need to take care.
Excellent. So we have had this very substantial discussion around security incidents, ransomware, threat surface. Now I want to go back to Akhil about one of your remarks about how data visibility and asset discovery continues to be a major challenge as far as this entire data landscape is concerned. So what do you think are the major bottlenecks, and how can you resolve the situation where they are able to find out where all the data is and take proactive steps, as many of the panelists have suggested?
Sure. So asset discovery has been a challenge since quite some time now. I mean, I don't know about any organization who claims to have 100% visibility on the asset, database that they've got. I think challenges revolve around shadow light IT use cases wherein you have one department, one team, buying something without, the knowledge of IT. So that's where the asset registration step fails, right? And then, so the asset visibility part then follows. So that's one thing. Again, most of these asset visibility tools or technologies are dependent on, reachability of the scanner to that asset. Okay. Now, asset might be offline. There might be some network disconnection, right? All these reachability issues will then culminate into, asset not being visible to you. Again, I think physical asset reconciliation is again as good as the knowledge the asset team holds, right? So if a asset reconciliation team doesn't really have the paperwork available to them for going and physically verifying the asset tags and all that, I think that fails again. So I think it's a continuous endeavor. While the agencies, especially the regulators, stress upon having asset visibility at all times. So I'll give one interesting example. I used to work for a shipping company, and they had acquired one more. I mean, it was a global giant. They had acquired few more shipping companies under their belt. The time when they, started, replacing their firewalls, they had referred to a Gartner report saying that OEM X, let's take the name Cisco, is a better firewall. Now, by the time they got the asset visibility and completed the project, Cisco had moved down, Checkpoint had gone up, right? So that's how long this asset visibility process takes, right?
Very interesting, very interesting. Now, time is over almost. We are on the top of the hour. But before we wrap up from here, three top elements that you would want to include in an incident response playbook. Starting with whoever wants to go first.
First thing is that escalation matrix. Because you will be able to communicate only if that is means available in a ready-made situations. And escalation matrix should have a different way of communication, like email, as well as mobile number, landline number. So even if one media fails, you will be able to communicate with other media. Second thing is that you should have the playbook ready in a different format. Suppose if it is only available in the digital format, then you may not be able to access if digital assets are not accessible. So it is very important that need to be kept in paper format as well, and it should be available with all the incident response team members. Then you should have a a war room or such type of environment which has been created. There, if something happens, most of the people who are able to join that digital war room as well as that physical war room, and there everybody should communicate, everybody should provide their view, and based on that the decision could be taken quickly. So these three things need to be taken care, and that could be made part of the cyber crisis management plan document, CCMP document. And I don't think that CCMP document should be very thick in nature, but it should be only covering the things which are very important, and everybody should be able to follow in that situations.
Great. I think those were very good 3 points. We are running out of time. 5 seconds left. Akhil, and then coming to Prakash. Quickly.
I think accuracy of documentation, and most importantly, the skill set which is required to understand the document, right?
Wonderful.
That's very important.
One thing I will add is just to conduct tabletop exercise on the created playbooks, so as to know that whatever you have documented is as per your current organization structure or not. Otherwise, you would have documented the playbook 6 months back, and the tools have changed, and you have not updated the playbook. So it will give you a feeler that it's a time to update the playbook.
Amazing. I think those were very, very relevant and extremely insightful points. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. It's been a lovely, lovely experience conducting this discussion. very insightful, very enriching, and a lot of learnings for me. And I hope the audience too would go back with a lot of takeaways from this discussion. A round of applause for the gentlemen here who shared their experiences, their insights, and a round of applause for the audiences too who have been very, very patient. And I hope they are better prepared next time with more questions. Thank you.